Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the DMZ America podcast, episode 154. It is Friday, July 5th, 2024. I am editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis coming to you from the right.
And I'm editorial cartoonist Ted Rall coming to you from the left.
How about that? What are the odds? Here, I found this. I thought, if you watch the video, you'll see what I'm about to show Ted. But I'll try to talk you through it. But Ted, look what I have behind me.
I saw that. Yeah, that's nice. I can't believe the Chicago Tribune had a color front page at that time. That's
Well,
very impressive.
Yeah, and the only thing that's in color is the picture of Jerry Ford.
Well,
the rest of it's black and white.
yeah, but that's actually cool symbolism. They're doing the outgoing guy Nixon. It's Nixon resigns, and on the right side is Nixon in black and white resigning, and then there's Jerry Ford in color because after all, he represents the future of the 70s.
You want to know something weird? This is how lazy they were back in the day. Here's the editorial page. Perspective. I'm showing Ted the editorial page from back then.
It just says
the only thing. Well, it's a McNally cartoon. It's a good one. It's Nixon, and the O is actually a drain, and the name is going down the drain. Ted, on the editorial page, that is the only mention of the resignation.
Right. Well,
yes.
I guess they probably. Well, they knew he was going to resign.
Yes,
I see. It was in the evening, though. It broke. This broke in the evening. This had to be a late edition because I remember vividly that it was only around 5 p.m.
Yeah. No, but don't forget the night before he had said the goodbye to the staff and all that stuff.
Well, that's probably
they had plenty. But look, here's a headline: the day Nixon resigns, Nicholas von Hoffman is writing "Catching Up with the Ketchup."
So that's August 9th, 74?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, yeah, you're right. That is fucking lazy as shit.
Yeah, it really is.
It's really fucking bad. Yeah.
So
NPR didn't NPR had all of their shit pre-recorded. They never covered 9/11 on 9/11.
What do you mean?
Like if you listened to NPR and you were listening to NPR at like, let's say 9 o'clock in the morning after a good 28 minutes after the first 18 minutes after the first plane hit, you'd be hearing like NPR talking about this, that, and the other, but not 9/11.
Gary Condit, remember him? Congressman Condit. That's what we were worried about on 9.
Oh yeah,
9/10.
Poor Gary Condit.
Gary.
Well, he was innocent, as it turned out.
It turned out he was, but I mean, talk about it. This just shows you that even an innocent man can look and make himself look ridiculously guilty.
I was convinced he was guilty.
I wasn't. I mean, you don't murder. I mean, Congress people tend not to murder people. They hire people to do that for them. For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, Gary Condit was a congressman, I believe, from California.
He was.
Yeah. And he was just a schmarmy looking, like spray tan, looked like he wore way too much cologne kind of guy.
True.
And apparently he had a habit of stooping the young interns on his staff, not unlike, a certain president. But this turns out, can you remember her name?
Chandra Levy.
Thank you. She went missing. And then they eventually found her body. And she had been murdered, and of course, everyone thought
there was speculation that she was pregnant with Condit's child. When that's may or may not be true. He was. I mean, everybody was like watching him. He was trailed by the media. He finally decided to give a high-profile interview to some Barbara Walters type person.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten that part of it. Yeah.
And he looked so guilty. He was like that. He was like that lady who's just had the hung jury in Boston in the murder trial for killing her husband, like the really hot one who, dresses really well. And anyway, she just walked away with a hung jury. There's a photo of her making out with her lawyer in a bar in Boston afterwards. She almost, it's one of those like, man, she looks guilty. Might not be, but looks it.
Yeah, no, but he looked and acted real guilty. And
he was so sketch, that guy.
Yeah, well, because I mean, and apparently they just dug into the other interns in his office, and every single female intern who worked for him was either seduced by him or he tried to. He just,
Right.
I mean, it was like relentless. It was
Yeah.
gross.
But it
Anyway,
turned
turns
out that he didn't kill her. She was on a
no,
either on a walk or a run in Rock Creek Park, which is a remarkably rugged park inside, albeit inside the District of Columbia. And she was apparently raped and killed by a denizen, mentally ill homeless person,
yeah.
denizen of the park. That only came out years later. And then, it's like the nation's like shrugged its collective shoulders and said, what? That guy was innocent? How
No,
could that
well,
be?
he went on with his life. He's fine. I
Yeah,
mean, his life, but
I'm sure
and
nothing bad
rightfully,
ever happened to him as a result of that,
and
except he
rightfully,
had to resign from Congress.
and his marriage fell apart,
Mm.
obviously. I mean, which, I would imagine if your wife found out that you had this particularly hobby, and that might cause some strain in the
It could
marriage.
cause some strain. Yeah.
Anyway, so getting back, there's really only one topic today. I mean, as we speak to you now, as of right now, it is 2:10 p.m. Central Time. As of 2:10, the president is still President Biden. Um, he doesn't know it, but the rest of us do. This is obviously on the heels of the great debate. Uh, Ted and I disagree on this. I think more, and it's one of those. It's a prediction disagreement.
Yes. Yeah.
You think he's going to resign? I don't know. The more I'm watching
I don't
this
think
over
he's
the
going to
next,
resign the presidency, although that could happen, certainly. I think he's going to, because it's true that he obviously, I mean, when you bring that up, as I think about this, he should resign. He is no longer able to fulfill his duties. Anybody who, if I can't see, I probably should quit my job as a taxi driver. So he's no longer able to function as president of the United States. By his own account, he's not available after 8 p.m. going forward. And the presidency is a 24-hour job. So that is like, or at least you have to be on call 24 hours. That is, but I do think he certainly will step down as the nominee apparent of the Democratic Party. And I
well,
think
I know
sooner
that.
rather than later. In fact, Scott, I think it could happen. Let me predict really precisely.
Oh,
It's
wow.
highly
Okay.
likely to happen this afternoon. And the reason I say that is because right now, even as we speak, he is sitting down for a much anticipated interview with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News. That a segment of that should air tonight at 6:30 Eastern time, and then the whole thing is going to air at 8 o'clock Eastern time. It's meant to be about half an hour, more or less. The ABC's hoping for more, and his aides tried to negotiate it down to 15 minutes.
Is that true? I didn't hear that
It
part.
is
Oh my
true,
God.
but that was refused by ABC because they because their programming is in 30-minute increments, right? So they have to fulfill, for their affiliates, they can't have a 15-minute show. So basically, he is sitting down now. This is being presented as non-scripted, no teleprompter, no notes, spontaneous answering of questions from Mr. Stephanopoulos, my old classmate at Columbia. And he is, and so I have to say, if this is anything close to the way that it's been presented, and it's, Biden's not being given, even if he's given the questions in advance, I don't think it'll help. As long as he's not able to read or have it telepromptered, he will fuck up bigly. No question about it. And when that happens, and I mean when it happens, to me, it's 100% certainty. The aides are going to be standing by. They're going to have their cell phones at the ready. They're going to be calling in to whoever's calling the shots in DC, whether it's the head of the DNC, Jill, whoever the fuck it is who's really been running the country for the last 3.5 years. And they're going to say, he fucked up. Everyone's watching. And I mean, Biden's on double secret probation right now. Everybody's watching to see, with any fuck up that he does, he has to hit a home run, Like I said this morning on the show, it's got to sail out of the park. It's got to be awesome. It's going to be far from awesome. And when that happens, it's going to be awesome, but in the opposite way. I think they'll look at this and they'll say, this can't air tonight at 8 p.m. We can't do this, or he can't still be president, or he can't still be the candidate by 8 p.m. This has to become a curio by 8. He's got to step down. I mean, he's got to, maybe they'll let it air and they'll fucking see what happens, but then it'll be like, not today. It'll be tomorrow or Saturday, but it's going to be or Sunday, but it's going to be a shit show. I mean, well, I don't see Monday rolling around and him still being the nominee of the Democratic Party. I just don't think so.
Well, here's my question then. I mean, this is practical politics. And I mean, when we were watching the debate, you, me, and your co-host, Angie Wong, we were doing to tip everyone off, because we're going to do it in the future, doing a beta version of live casting an event. And it was, he just right out of the chute looked like crap. It was embarrassing. We've all seen it. We've all heard about it. But so this leads me to this question. I'm wondering, like, tonight, can he do anything but fuck up? And let me explain this. I mean, so now for those if you remember Dan Quayle came out of the chute, looked like a doofus, very unimpressive when he was introduced to the American people as George H.W. Bush's running mate in 1988, and he never recovered from that, and he couldn't. I mean, he was helping someone. He was at a school, and a kid was spelling potato, and he misspelled potato, so that gets thrown all over the place. And there was no way, there's nothing that Dan Quayle could have done to quash the concerns about his intellect. I don't know that,
except go on the Scripps Howard's spelling bee, maybe.
Well, there's that. Yeah, he could have. He could have done that. But so with Biden, not the practical question, Ted, not does he have the physical or the mental acuity to pull this off?
Yeah.
But really, can he do it? I mean, is there any way? I mean, he has to like literally hit 1,000. He cannot. He can't.
Something that probably neither of us could do.
No, no, seriously. I mean, and that's why I'm wondering, the best approach, the best thing his people, if it was untrue that his cognitive abilities are not so significantly diminished, is to have, like, their initial response was, let's have a rally. They go to Philadelphia. He speaks for,
Yeah, but he'd just be reading off a teleprompter. That doesn't work anymore. Everybody's caught on to it. No. The national media is on teleprompter watch now. And there's even been reporting about how he had Democratic donors are saying, no more teleprompters. We want to see this guy speak. Like, he would have to go, no, I think the teleprompter thing's not going to work anymore. I mean, it worked. It was a nice run, but that's over. He's got to now, the standard has risen. He would have to give a town hall where, kind of like the famous one where Bush and Gore in 2000, the one where Gore walked right into Bush's space and Bush goes, hey.
Yeah.
and his Gore's like looming over him.
Well, that was a page he took from Clinton in 96, because they did the same microphone town hall thing, and Dole was Bob Dole talking to the people about Bob Dole, and Clinton stood right behind him, and Dole freaked out and stood behind the podium.
The dude had PTSD from World War II.
Yeah, well, there's
sitting
that.
in the mud in the Po Valley waiting to be rescued for half a day with his arm fucked up for life. Okay, so wait.
So getting back to the original question,
but the point is he can't. I mean, he has to do that. He has to do something where it's like 4 hours with the president, and it's like,
yes,
he's like running across the stage, like, hey, oh, what's up? Oh man, let me hold that kid. Like, I mean, there's no fucking way.
I'm gonna do some push-ups.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, there's no way.
No, you're absolutely right. He could have done what you literally filibuster the questions. You filibuster the event. I mean, to
Yeah.
the point where everyone in the audience, you're so full of energy that you've exhausted an entire audience of
Yeah.
human
Where
beings.
everyone's sick of you. They're like, all right, all right, all right, go home.
Yeah, we got it. You can do it. He can't do that. He doesn't have the energy. And here's the other thing I want to touch, and this is what I really want to touch on, Ted, because I know you're feeling it considerably more than I am, and that's anger.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to my Democratic friends. We had some friends over last night, and they're both Democrats. And she was pissed. She was genuine that she had been lied to. First of all, if you listen to our podcast or listen to Ted and Scott for the last 3.5 years, we were saying this 3 years ago.
That's
So
true.
this is
Four.
his
Yeah.
performance was no surprise to you and I. It's just that America, for whatever reasons, decided to start paying attention to this. The anger of Democrats towards this guy right now, and especially his inner circle, is significant.
True.
I don't think trust is, as we all know, if who have been in long-term relationships, we have kids. Trust is such a delicate thing, and it can be shattered in an instant. And the trust the people had, the Democratic Party had towards Joe Biden and his people, that they believed, and they carped that party line. How many times did you hear it? How many times did I hear it? He's fine. He has a stutter. He just like, no, and all of that. You and I called bullshit on all of it
Because it was obviously bullshit.
yeah.
I mean, two things can be true at the same time that seem to be in opposition. In this case, the DNC and Biden and his handlers gaslit the American people into basically having a stuffed pinata pretend to be president of the United States, weekend at Bernie style, for 3.5 years. And at the same time, the people who were gaslit were stupid fucking asshole idiots who were rubes and wanted to be fooled. I mean, look, it's a con, like in a con, people want things to be true. Like someone's like, oh, look, sir, would you help me? I found all this money. I would share half of it with you if you were to deposit it in your bank account. Well, you would love to have half of a lot of money, so you believe it. You want it to be true. The people who I sat next to an old couple who literally, as they found out, we were on the plane watching TV when the Bernie Madoff story broke, and they were obviously had invested in Bernie Madoff.
Oh God!
And they literally were watching as the news of this scam broke, and this woman goes, it's impossible. Jewish T-bills, they called them, guaranteed 10%. And I was just watching them, and she's like, you have to call someone. He's like, who am I going to call? There's no one to call. Listen, the money's gone. She's like, it can't just be gone. He's like, it's gone. And then they were talking to me at one point, and they said, oh, well, 10%. And I was like, there's no such thing as guaranteed returns. Like you wanted it to be true, but it's not true. And like, and it's like, that's like that. Like, Democrats wanted to believe that a 78-year-old man who had never been that smart to begin with, was super sharp and lucid at the age of 78, would be able to coast through to 82 in his first term, and then re-up until 86. And I'm just going to say that if we were ever going to have the first ever 86-year-old president, it was never going to be Joe Biden. And they wanted it to be true. I mean, look, Noam Chomsky, until a year ago, he was 94 years old and was sharp as a tack. Noam Chomsky would be a fine president at 94. Age doesn't affect everyone equally. Joe Biden was already demented 4 years ago, and it was obvious to everybody who wanted it to pay attention. Now, it could be true that so maybe what's happened also is that Trump's insanity and possible somewhat dementia may have, distracted Democrats from the dementia of their own candidate, in the same way that now Biden's dementia is distracting us from Trump's strange performance at the debate. And so, but that's what happened, right? You always look at like your enemy more critically. And that's always a huge tactical error, but it's what everybody does. So, now here we are, and I am angry. I'm not angry that they were wrong and that I was right. What I'm angry about is that they were wrong and they were fucking loud and mean about it.
Oh yeah.
That's the problem. And like anybody can be wrong. I've been wrong. You've been wrong. We'll be wrong again. But when you say like, well, there was no uncertainty, they were absolutely sure. And not only that, they accused everybody who, like us, of being like agents of Putin or Trump or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
lick spittles of the MAGA movement, and like or being ageist assholes,
Yeah.
or being stupid and seeing senility where it didn't exist. What do we know of senility, even though we both have had senile parents? I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't know what this whole thing, it's actually going to be when the truth of this all comes out and some historian writes a truly great book about the debacle that was the collapse of the Biden administration. It is going to be absolutely fascinating to look at like the mass delusion of an entire people, because even to some extent, the Republicans, they couldn't say it, right? Like even Mitch McConnell couldn't say the president is demented. Ted Cruz couldn't say it. I mean, even right-wing conservatives, somehow it was not allowed. It's the ultimate emperor has no clothes moment in American politics.
Well, it reminds me very much of, you talk about the delusion, and George W. Bush, when people, and I still never understood the Republicans saying he's actually really smart. He doesn't articulate it well. I'm going, no, 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 no. The definition of smart is being able to articulate many things well.
True.
That's sort of the definition, and he couldn't do it. And so, I mean, anyone who would say he's actually really smart, even a Republican like myself at the time, would say, no, he's not. He just isn't. And so when they started this collective, another one. Okay, here's another one, more recent, and that'll really piss people off. Barack Obama was one of our best presidents. I mean,
well, he was definitely one of our black presidents.
He was definitely one of the black presidents. Maybe even the blackest of the black presidents,
and also the least. Well, no, not the least black, but the least black while still being black.
But don't tell me that he's our greatest president. First of all, it takes decades to figure out if they were or were not.
True.
So for historians to really look at and say, I mean, FDR, you knew during it that we're going through historic times and he was the historic leader. But for the most part, Barack Obama, no, I think he's going to go down in history once you get past it was transformative, that
the historic significance. Yeah.
Right. But then they're going to start looking at his presidency. And Ted, you brought this up. You were a critic pretty early. And I was, but they kind of wrote me off because of coming from the right. Obviously, I was not going to agree. But you were right things like, why don't you codify Roe v. Wade? Why don't we just have a national law? You had a supermajority in the House and the Senate. It'll be
your
easy
big
work
chance.
of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he said what did he say?
He said it's not a priority.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Like the president of the United States can't sign like one extra bill?
Well, I think he felt that he had only so much political capital to spend, which of course, again, super majority.
Right. And not to mention I will give Biden credit for this. Biden recognized somehow, or his people more accurately recognized, that there's no year like the first year when you're president of the United States.
Never has been. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, look at FDR, man, 14 years, but the first year was the first year. It all happened in the first year. And so Biden, everything that he accomplished, particularly the infrastructure bill, and the government and the COVID bailout, those two things are all in the first year, and bringing us out of the pandemic. After that, didn't get shit accomplished, right, at all.
No. So okay. So here we are today. I mean, as you said right now, I mean, what struck me, there's a couple of moving parts to this, which I find fascinating. One, he had lunch with Vice President Harris yesterday, and apparently that's the first time they've met in months.
Yes.
Now, traditionally, administrations, the president and vice president had lunch together at least once a week. I think
Yes.
I'm trying to think if there was others that had it every 2 weeks, but it began with Jimmy Carter and Walter Mondale.
Mhm.
And then
Mondale, that was Mondale's requirement to become vice president.
was it?
Yeah. He
Okay.
said, I don't want to be just a figurahead. I want to be, in the room. I want to
He was the first vice
have
president who
contact.
had an office
If
in
you
the
don't agree
West
with
Wing.
me, if you don't agree with me, I respectfully decline.
Did you know that? He's the first vice president to have an office in the West Wing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that became a tradition. HW had a weekly lunch with Quayle. I mean, it just goes on. Reagan had a weekly lunch with Bush. Blah 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 blah. Anyway,
I mean, it seems
so
to me like the bare minimum.
Well, you're also this person. Literally, here's the thing.
That person's got to be trailing you all the time.
Yes.
They should be shadowing you.
Yes, if you are a human being, you're a frail, fragile being on this mortal coil. You could die tomorrow.
Sure.
Either naturally or unnaturally, you could die. And this person's going to be president of the United States. Now, to show you what a dick, and you've said this for a long time, I'm coming around to your way of thinking, Joe Biden is, he didn't give a shit. He did not give two shits about the transition of power,
right?
Or have someone in the wings who could potentially be president of the United States.
And could successfully beat the Republican challenger.
Well, not just, I mean, let's just erase the political ramifications.
Right. Who could just
the practice. They could govern. Right. They could walk into the Oval Office and they knew where the bathroom was.
I think right now, yeah, no fault, no thanks to him. I mean, she's been shut out completely. We don't really know her at all. I'm guessing she might be able to do it. Scott, I got a big fucking 50 megaton question for you.
Okay.
The nuclear football, who has it? What if this addled, crazy, mean, insane, dumb, senile man decides he wants to mix it up with Putin once and for all?
This will distract him.
Who's going to stop him? I mean, that's a serious question, because under the United States is the only nuclear power, as far as I know, where one man has control of the nuclear arsenal. No, that's not true in Russia. It's not true in China. It's not true, I don't think, in Israel. It's not. I know it's not true in France or Germany. Or the UK. You always have to have several people. You have to have.
I see.
You need like
some chain of command.
You need a couple of generals, the department, the Minister of Defense. I mean, if we were like most countries, you'd need like the Secretary of Defense, maybe also the Vice President, or also maybe two generals or whatever. But you can't just. But just like in the famous scene from The Dead Zone with insane Martin Sheen as the president. He could get up in the middle of the night and say, the missiles are flying, hallelujah, hallelujah. And there's no one technically who can say, no, sir. So seriously, I mean, I know you don't know the answer.
I can't answer that. And like you said, the football, they call it euphemistically, it's the briefcase with the launch codes. If you notice, there's always a military guy near the president, and that's what that is. You're absolutely right. There's so much danger.
Well, what do you think is happening? Here. Do you think it's him, or do you think that basically, look, from what we're hearing, he hasn't, if we, at most conservatively, he has not been right for 6 to 12 months, right? Conservatively, you and I know it's longer than that. Don't forget in 2022, when he was calling out for the dead woman at a rally, remember? A dead woman who he had called and offered personal condolences to her relatives over her death and attended her memorial service. Okay. I mean, generally speaking, when I attend someone's memorial service, I tend to remember that they're not around anymore. so like,
what tips you off, Ted?
2 years
body
ago.
in the box.
That was 2 years ago. So the point is, seriously, that man, I'll tell you, I'm angry that we were treated like shit over our opinions, which happen to be correct. And I'm angry as hell at the people. And I think there's no other word. These fuckers have been saying for years that Donald Trump is the biggest threat to democracy ever. they're the bulwarks against him to protect us from totalitarianism and authoritarianism. And it turns out they have taken over the country in a coup d'etat for the last 4 years. It turns out, and everybody who's involved in that is like, they're a traitor to the Constitution, to the country,
Yeah.
to the idea of democracy. That goes, all the media people who are writing stuff like, I started to suspect a year ago, fuck you, you should be fired now. Like, you should go to prison for treason. Like, the members of the cabinet who saw it and did, fuck you. The donors who were like, wow, that's a little weird, like a year ago, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You guys are all scum. And then they look down on people like us. They think they're the good people.
Yeah. No, we were, I mean, Ted and I can tell you stories of how, we were just raked over the coals every time we had the temerity to make this point.
This
and to say the emperor has, and it was so obvious. He was doing the old man, limp wrist walk. There are so many signs that he was too old that his cognitive abilities were diminishing and were eroding quickly.
When he had press conferences, he couldn't answer the questions.
He didn't have press conferences, and they stopped the press conferences after the first year. So that was done.
True. True. Even then, you could tell.
And so Ted touched on the coup d'etat idea, and just to get our listeners up to speed, my take has always been that, over the last 3 years, clearly what's been going on is that you have an adult man who cannot think. His cognitive skills are gone. He's not, unavailable.
He's not a vegetable, but
no,
he's
not a vegetable.
But he's on the way out.
He's on the way out. So the country has the executive branch. There are 3 branches to the American government. The executive branch was taken over by a faceless cabal of people you and I don't know, certainly did not elect. Now they're saying, well, there's hundreds and thousands of people in the executive branch. This is true. But the head of the executive branch is designed to be headed by a duly elected president. That's not clearly not who's been running the show. And that is a coup d'etat. That's the very definition. And now now they're trying to preserve it. Now they're fumbling. Now they're stumbling. Now they're trying to grasp and hold on to power as hard as they can. I think Jill Biden is chief among them.
True.
And she's the Edith Wilson of our generation. President Woodrow Wilson had a stroke, and then 10 days later had a massive stroke, and was paralyzed on one side of his body, could not talk, could not sign documents. And Edith Wilson signed documents, made appointments, and effectively ran the executive wing for about a year. Mm-hmm. That is a coup d'etat. That is against our Constitution. So anytime you hear these motherfuckers say, Trump is a threat to democracy, and I believe that he is.
I think that's true.
But not as big a threat as a coup d'etat.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the difference. Donald Trump is a threat, and he tried a putsch.
Yeah.
That was a putsch, January 6th, right? Which is sort of a gentle attempt at a coup d'etat. Basically, you go like, and you hope the government falls. That's what Hitler tried in 1925, the beer hall putsch. He tried, or if you want to call it a coup d'etat, a coup attempt. Okay. Trump wanted to overthrow the government. We talked about it before it happened. We knew that that he was likely going to on January 6th. He tried. These people did. The Biden administration, they did take over the government. So who's the bigger threat? The dog who's growling at you and tried to bite you, or the dog whose teeth are way down into your asshole while your blood runs down your leg? I mean, that's, that's the threat. I know.
That's graphic. Yeah. No, it's
cartoonist. I mean, the point is that they did it. They have done it. They've done it now for years. And now they don't even have the fucking good grace to let go and leave.
Well, I think now let me ask this. If you and I, and obviously we agree on that this has been a coup d'etat, is that actionable? And is this a crime? I believe that it is.
I believe it's a high crime. I think it is. I think it's honestly treason under the meaning of the law. I mean, does treason have to be in service to a foreign power? I'm not really sure it does. I'm gonna look that up. Like what's
Interesting.
because it's not in service to a foreign power, although here we go. The crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government. Well, they overthrew the government.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they overthrew yeah. So
it's a soft overthrow, but they did. I mean, if they con, it's a scam. They conned. I don't even know. I mean, you and I are both students of history. I mean, I guess you have to look at monarchy maybe to like think of an example of like where the people were told that someone was in charge and they weren't really. I mean, I don't know of any. I mean, there've been like there was the Woodrow. Were there any consequences to the Woodrow Wilson thing when it came out, or did it only come to light long after he was gone?
After he was gone.
Okay, so
I mean, it was that one of those dirty little Washington secrets everybody knew. They and behind closed doors they called her her excellency, and there was
common
knowledge.
One of the last presidents of France before the German invasion, he was basically he collapsed from depression, and as France was being overrun by the Germans, he was the premier of France under the Third Republic, Paul Reynaud, and he had a mistress named Hélène de Perth, and Hélène de Perth basically ran France because he took to his bed because he just couldn't deal. So that's, I mean, and it shows that there are serious consequences to having a leader do that, right?
So okay, so going forward, what should happen and what will happen. Now obviously this is pure conjecture, and gears are in motion now that may, by the time we post this thing, may make the this podcast obsolete.
That's entirely possible. I'm going to hurry up and process the video as soon as we get off here. Yeah.
At the moment, this is where we are. So my take is different than Ted's. My take is that the powers that be, the leaders of the coup d'etat, are not going to give up power, and he's
the Bush
going
junta. The Biden junta.
He's going to continue on as a figurehead of this administration. I believe he will be the nominee of the Democratic Party. Wow. And that they will run him, and he will get decimated,
destroyed
in the November election.
Yeah, and my take is that won't happen, that he's going to be gone in a matter of days, if not hours. And we'll see, but I don't see there's any way that he makes it to the virtual roll call, which is happening, I think, July 18th. That's just in 13 days. I don't think so. I just don't see it. Anything's possible, but I do doubt that there will ever be any accountability for these assholes who have, including those in the media, who have enabled all of this bullshit for years. But I do think he'll be gone. Assuming he's gone, I think it's going to be the party has to turn as one with open arms to the sweet, tender mercies of the former senator from California, Kamala Harris. I think there's no choice. They have to. She has access to about $100 million that belong to the Biden-Harris campaign. She can get it. No one else can get it. And I don't think anyone else can scale. Like all of these other names that have been bandied about, like Alan Bashir from Kentucky and Jay Shapiro from Pennsylvania.
Oh, Newsom is the big talking point
Newsom's
today.
Gretchen Whitmer. These ones I just mentioned, not Newsom. They have no national name recognition. They can't scale to a national campaign, I think, within a matter of weeks. Gavin Newsom could. I don't think he's going to get the nod because California is a disaster and people will look at it. And plus, he'd have to raise all that money. And he did badly in that debate that Fox had with DeSantis. I was surprised. I thought DeSantis was not. I'm not impressed by DeSantis. I didn't think he'd do well, but honestly, I saw what I saw. It's not like DeSantis owned him, but DeSantis was consistent and dominant throughout. Newsom almost looked like a guy who hadn't studied up, and I thought he
Well,
could coast through.
and that's very on brand for him. California is a basket case. California, for the first time in its history as a state, is losing population. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a remarkable thing to
True.
achieve if you're the current governor of California. Plus, they're going to look at the taxes there are onerous, and you have homelessness and crime is rampant. I mean,
That's all
to a
true.
degree. So, I mean, I don't understand this love affair for Newsom other than he has decent hair. He knows how to
No,
use hair
that's some
product.
pretty good hair. Although, frankly, I hear that the co-hosts on the DMZ America podcast have some fucking styling hair.
Ah, there you go.
That's right. That's right. So,
Now,
operators are standing by. I
so
mean,
Harris, okay. So your prediction is that Joe Biden does not, he announces his retirement. He says, he pulls an LBJ. If
yes,
nominated, I will not run.
he'll
If
finish his
elected, I
term,
will not serve.
finishes his term,
Right. Finishes his term.
hands the baton to Kamala.
What happens if, okay, this is where, and I don't know what a Biden delegate looks like or who they could possibly be. But let's assume for a moment he says, okay, we're going to open up the convention.
Yeah.
Is Harris a lock?
No, no, she's not. I mean, the thing is, there's no party. The way it currently works is he can release the delegates, but he can't, he can politely request that everybody get behind his vice president. But the truth is, she's going to have to earn it like in the old days. And nobody controls blocks of delegates the way they used to. So she would have to run. She would have to, and there would be others who smell weakness, who would challenge her, and progressives who don't care, who would run against her from the left. Marianne Williamson has announced that she'll get back in the race. I
Oh
wouldn't be
God.
surprised if Dean Phillips gets back in the race. He's kind of owed an apology as well, because he had caught a lot of heat from the Democratic Party for saying he was only going to run against Joe because he thought he was too old. And he
Oh,
said he
okay.
totally agreed with Biden on every policy. But it was just simply an age thing. He was punished by the Democratic Party in a big way. But I could see other. So yeah, it's not seamless. As a former loyal Democrat, what I would want to see is the party coming together as one behind someone. And that person, probably Harris, makes the most sense, even though I'm not voting for her and I can't fucking stand her. But the point is that, I'm going to vote for Jill Stein, I'll vote for Jill Stein if the election is tomorrow. But, I just don't think that, that's just going to be, it'll be a mess. There's no question. But the thing
Yeah.
is, it's like in poker, if you have no hand, you're going to lose. Like you have like a 2, a 3, a 6, a jack, and a king. You gotta get as many cards as you can and start from scratch. It's your best move. Throwing in or folding is the way to go. I mean, Biden's is going to lose. Like you said, he'll be destroyed. So
Yeah.
it's the risky move is the safe move. The risky fortune favors the bold. Look at Donald Trump, man. Fortune favors the bold. Look at him. I mean, look at where he is. He's 6 points ahead, probably going to get bigger, almost certainly going to win re-election. He took the chance of facing all of this lawfare. Now it's all going away. I mean, God, the guy's got the devil's fucking luck.
No question. And well put. I couldn't agree more. So, okay. Yeah. Harris. I have argued this for the last few months that she has improved. Her performances have improved dramatically. She is a better actor on the political stage.
Yeah.
Whether or not that means anything. This is a reboot. Nobody knows who she is. As you mentioned, nobody knows her. Nobody really has a sense of who she is. I don't, you don't. Although
No.
it was interesting. I was talking to a cartoonist out
I
in
would vote for her
California.
depending on her policies. I have to say, I want to take that back. I'm open-minded. It would be, I need to hear from her what she would do. Anyway, you were talking to a cartoonist.
I was just saying a mutual friend of ours, a cartoonist out in California, knows her and does not care for her at all.
Oh, really?
And there's a lot of people in California who don't care for her. And I hear that and I think, but wait a minute, she was the senator from California. How is, this isn't like, you have somebody liked her, they voted for her, and more voted
Well,
for her
no,
than
that's
anybody
not
else.
true, Scott. They voted for her. Well, maybe in the primary process, someone liked her and voted for her. But the point is, come on, when you're on the Democratic ballot in California, a state that where the Republican Party is a non-entity, you win.
Well, yeah,
That's
but she
it.
had to win the primary. And so, I mean, she had to have some, she was also won
She had to
statewide
schmooze.
office as the attorney general. She knows what, I mean, so she has to have some qualities of that they liked, that they saw. It's the most populous state in the union. She had to
True.
have some mass appeal. So it couldn't be hated by everybody. Now, okay, so let's go with the Rall scenario and
Mm.
say that Biden does pull an LBJ, say that he's not going to accept the nomination. He throws it open. Harris is the natural. And you and I have talked
And he
about
will
this.
endorse her, and that will carry a lot of weight.
Well, I wonder if he would.
Of course he would. Why would he not?
LBJ did not endorse Humphrey when
Well,
he
he
stepped
will.
down.
Okay, but he will. That's because LBJ came from a different era where he believed in small d democracy within the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party gave up on that a long, long time ago, back with rules changes going back to 1980. And so, that's how they
I'd say back
shivved
to 76.
Jesse Jackson and fucking Howard Dean and John Edwards and of course Bernie Sanders, not once but twice. So no, there's no. I don't see it.
I think, I mean, Harris makes the
He
most
will. She
sense.
will. He will of course endorse her.
Well, I'm not sure he will, but even if he doesn't, the fact is, as you've pointed out, the Democratic Party is the party of, racial identity, and they're not going to fire the black woman.
They
It's
can't.
just not going to
She
happen.
hasn't done anything wrong. There's no reason to fire her. They have no excuse.
Well, except she's a weekend and polls badly, and I don't think
But
has a
she
lot.
doesn't. She pulls badly. I mean, just look again. I don't want to make it sound like I'm pulling for her, but I'm just trying to be objective here. She pulls a woman who has not worked basically in 3.5 years, and no one has seen is polling badly. Now, the question is, what happens after she gets the big rollout with those $50 million a month in advertising and all the propaganda on CNN and MSNBC that's going to pump her up, all
Yeah, yeah.
the big tour of the states that she'll give. I mean, we don't know what her ceiling is. We may have found it, that this may be her ceiling, but the point is we don't know. She could shoot to the sky. We don't know.
Okay, so
She could
let's say
sing
it's
fast too. It could get worse. She could be like Hillary Clinton. The more she campaigns, the more unpopular she becomes.
well, I've described her as Hillary without the charm, and I haven't seen a hell of a lot of difference other than that she's more polished, but I don't see that she's changed that. I mean, you can't learn charisma. You either have it or you don't.
Well,
And
Hillary Clinton, yeah, no, Hillary Clinton actually looks like she's more fun than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris doesn't look nice, smart, or fun. She looks like she might be competent. That's about it. Hillary Clinton looks like she might be fun. That's it, and certainly is smart.
yeah,
She's not nice.
no,
And in terms of, I don't know how competent she is. Not very, I think.
no, but you got a lot of frequent flyer miles when she was Secretary of State, so you've got
True.
that. Okay, so Harris, let's run this through. Harris is the nominee.
Mm.
Who does she pick? We had this discussion on your show this morning. I've thought about it ever since.
White dude.
You keep saying white dude. I still think Gretchen Whitmer makes a lot of sense. That becomes it's two women running against two dudes.
I mean, there's no reason for it not to be two women. I mean, after all, every other pairing in American history has been two dudes, right?
Yeah.
There's no logical reason, but I guess if we just look at the evolution of what American voters are willing to accept as they evolve, I think it's like two women is a lot to ask, especially this will be a really dramatic moment in American politics, and you kind of like when you're going through a national trauma, which we are currently undergoing a national trauma, a major political crisis, the last thing you want to do is mix everything up. Like, not only are we divorcing your father, but I'm marrying a trans guy, and also we're moving to another state. Isn't that good news? Like, maybe keep the house, maybe don't date in public. Like, one thing at a time. I think the Democratic Party has a huge trust problem, and they're going to need to they're going to need to keep white guys in the fold. I mean, really.
Well, who, I guess there's some Democratic senator somewhere who fits the bill of just being boring and competent, and
quite a few. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, I could see a Gavin Newsom as vice president.
That doesn't get you anything. Other than, she's going to win California. That's the Democrats going to win.
Well, she could get Sherrod Brown from Ohio.
That'd be interesting.
And he's very competent and has good, solid Midwestern credentials, which she does not have.
Right. That'd be smart. I'm wondering, is there anyone in the South that I can't think of right now, but offhand, a Democrat? And also, so it would, if there's someone from Pennsylvania, someone from Ohio, someone from Michigan, someone from Wisconsin,
or go Arizona, for a celebrity choice, Al Franken.
I think Franken's past his due date.
Probably. But it would be kind of cool because, he got shivved over Me Too unfairly. So, it would be like, that would be a dog whistle to like white guys, like the Democratic Party's back into you again.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that at all. But
you could go a celebrity option, Tom Hanks, whatever.
Well, that'd be interesting. Tom Hanks, I know you're kidding, but you're not kidding.
I'm not kidding.
Ever since 2016, anything is possible.
Yeah,
literally anything.
Look, and Ronald Reagan, Jesse Ventura, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But Ronald Reagan served 2 terms as governor of California.
Correct.
He had some bona fides, but
while the state's economy was going gangbusters, right? So yeah,
Donald Trump did not. Donald Trump, it's still a remarkable story. Love him or hate him, it's a remarkable achievement what he did in 2016. It's unbelievable.
With no money too.
With no money against the quintessential establishment candidate in Hillary Clinton.
True.
So, okay, so your prediction, you're not the only one saying this, by the way, but a lot of news sources are saying the next 48, 72 hours are the most critical of the Biden administration.
Well, he's got some kind of rally going on, but I don't give 2 shits about that because he just reads off the teleprompter, which we know he can do. Right. So,
but here's the thing:
it's all about Stephanopoulos. All of it.
This is where the press makes me crazy: is that they edited out the rally in Pennsylvania. The only ones who covered it is the same thing. Fox News, who showed him afterwards, who had to be led off the stage by his wife.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a good look.
Well, it's not going to change. He can't fly off the stage.
Well, and I mentioned.
I have a horse come and pick him up. What do you want to do?
We're going to have to go back. I'm going to have to go back through some of our podcasts. So I'm saying like a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe more, I mentioned that President Biden needed somebody by his side to help him stand up and sit down.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I also want to establish this and be crystal clear on this. Ted and I were, our go-to coping mechanism is to joke about something, make fun of stuff, no matter how dark and evil. Neither
more
of
dark,
us,
the more joke.
Yeah, and I can tell you that in our private conversations, and and we don't say a hell of a lot different than we do in front of you here.
True.
We do not take any glee or joy in piling on to an old man. Because we both have dealt with, as Ted mentioned earlier, we both dealt with demented parents.
This could happen to us now easily.
Yes. There's no, so yes, we're joke about it, we're giggle about it, but there is no joy in any of this conversation.
No, this sucks.
Because today, I'd love to be talking about is like the Republicans have this great candidate, the Democrats have this great candidate, and Ted and I would be going, mano a mano debating those platforms. Unfortunately, that's not where we are. And so, and you mentioned, did you hear the Philadelphia Inquirer actually editorialized that Donald Trump should drop out of the race
Well,
because
that's
of his
probably true. I
dementia.
mean, I actually was thinking of doing a cartoon like once Biden drops out that basically says, one, both of with quotes of both of them, like saying gibberish from real gibberish that they've said. And then
Yeah,
like with an X through Biden, it says like one crazy old white dude down, one to go. I mean, Trump is also mentally addled and
yeah,
should step down for the same reasons as Biden. It's just that it's more obvious with Biden, and it's worse because he's a current president of the United States, and Biden's a little bit worse. But it's kind of like saying Biden's worse, but doesn't mean Trump's okay. He's not. He's not nearly close to
no.
okay. And if you compare video of, say, Trump talking in the 80s or 90s to the way he talks now, there's no comparison.
Well, just like I said, if you were listening during the debate, the word salad that he was spewing half the time, and if you watch his speeches, they don't make any sense.
No sense.
None. So that's where we are, folks. Yeah. So you have Jill Stein. I have the Libertarian candidate Chase, and now I can't remember his last name for some reason, but he's actually impressing me somewhat. So I'll keep watching him and keeping you posted.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
We should invite Jill and Chase onto the pod. See
Oh,
if
I'd
they
love to have that. That'd be great.
be great. We should do that. All right, I'll reach out to Jill. You reach
I'll
out to
reach out to Chase.
All right, cool.
And
But like definitely look, we're gonna watch what happens here. There is a bottle of whatever you like to drink, I think, in it for you if Biden is still the nominee by the next pod.
okay. So, and
Okay.
well, okay, vice versa. Yeah, obviously, yeah, that's the bet.
Okay, fine. Okay.
All right. All right. So before we sign off because listen, we may be potting tonight.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. That could happen.
But until then, Ted, where can we see all things Ted Rallian?
So just go to rall.com, RALL.com. That's where you can pretty much find everything, including how to buy my most recent book, 2024 Revisited. Or you just go to Amazon, go to whowhatwhy.org. New cartoon going up there tomorrow. And go to listen to the final countdown on Radio Sputnik with me and Angie Wong, and frequently Scott Stantis. That is on X Spaces and Rumble. And that's Center Clip, which is mini podcasts, 30 seconds to 5 minutes long. Both Scott and I each do that as well. And Scott, where can we find all things Scottisian?
Well, you can go
Scottish.
to actually, that's where the word Scott, that's where the name comes from. It's
I know.
not, I know it's not that interesting, is it? I mean, why does a Frenchman have the name Scott? Makes no fucking sense. Anyway, that's what you get for being the fourth of four boys. They just ran out of names. That's exactly what happened.
I don't know what my mom's excuse is. She named me after my dad.
Yes.
Like,
Well,
no, I'm like, really? No original name. I don't get it in my own name.
well, but to be fair, your son.
Ditto. Let the dysfunction carry on.
Yes. You can go to Center Clip, of course, or you can go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis. You can go to gocomics.com/Prickly City and read my political comic strip. You can go to Chicago Tribune and see my work there. You can go to the Dallas Morning News, see my work there. Michael Smerconish is, if you've seen him on CNN on the weekends, he has a daily show on Sirius XM, and he has a webpage. I mean, he's kind of an amazing, he's a whirlwind of energy. It's crazy.
He's like the Joe Biden of CNN.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But he has actually picked up four cartoonists for his private collection. We do work for his newsletter, so go ahead. The Smerconish newsletter. Go ahead and subscribe to that. It's free, and you'll be one of nearly 200,000 people who do it. So there you go. All right. Well, we may seriously, Ted may be right. I'm
Well,
kind
and
of taking
Scott, you may be right. There's no telling.
I think you're more right than I am, to tell you the truth. I think that I'm kind of throwing this out there as listening to the utterances of the cabal holding together the disintegrating Biden presidency, and they're showing no signs of letting go.
No, but the media has their teeth sunk deep
Yes.
in them, and I don't think they're letting go. It feels like August 1974. It's like we've got you dead to rights. Like the old Kurt Cobain T-shirt said, "Kill your idols." That's what they're on about right now.
It's okay. I know we're signing off, but I have never seen the media turn this quickly.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard to say. Like when society turns, let's say for example, until the late '80s, you could smoke in a maternity ward. It's like now you can't even smoke in your own apartment. Like what happened? And it's kind of like, well, it's sort of like watching a flock of birds fly. Like how do they do that, right? I mean, are they all following each other? Who decides what direction they're going? Which bird's in charge? Are any of the birds in charge? Do they kind of have a communal mind? I don't really know, but my impression is that these doubts and these thoughts about this bullshit were basically bubbling up subconsciously and unconsciously, being whispered amongst each other and even just being thought of for a long time, for at least a year or two, and then so as soon as someone was willing to stand up and say the emperor has no brain, they started to. Some people are like, yeah, that's right, that's what I said. Yeah, me too. Yeah, he does have no brain, and I think that's kind of how it works. What do you think
Yeah.
happened here?
Well, I think the debate happened. I think it was undeniable. You could not, they couldn't turn the cameras
Why'd they
away.
want the debate? If they were going to just coast through, they could have said it was very simple to simply say, fuck Donald Trump. He tried to overthrow the government. He's a traitor. I'm not going to dignify the office of the presidency by appearing on a
Oh,
debate stage with this asshole. That's what they should have said.
because the Trump people were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant when the Biden people came forward and said, "We're only going to debate you if you agree to X, Y, and Z." And they went, "Yeah, okay,
Done.
done." And they're, and
Yeah,
I
but
know the Biden,
why'd they propose it? Well, they were
because
behind in the polls.
they're behind in the polls, and they really thought that the Trump people would turn them down because they were asked for so many outrageous conditions.
Yeah.
And they were, and all of a sudden, when Trump people said, "Yeah, okay, we're cool with that."
No, true. It's like if it's true if Biden's people had gone and said, "Yeah, so nobody will be wearing pants," Trump would be like, "All right." Like,
Yeah, I'm
he
fine.
was going to
Okay.
do anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we are. Okay, then. Until next time, Ted, thanks a lot.
Thank you,
And thank
Scott.
you all for listening to this edition. And
And
like I said, we
seriously,
may,
I wish everybody well. And this is for my Democratic friends in particular. I know seriously that you're very upset and sad and maybe scared at this time. And don't be rash. Just remember, my friend Valerie, colleague Valerie von der Plum said today in her Substack, there's, you're not in Gaza. You have food in your refrigerator. Things are going to be okay. And basically the fact that this came out, if you're really worried about Trump, better that this should come out now than later. This is the fact that this is coming out now means there's some chance to beating Trump. And there would not have been if it hadn't come out. So try to think on the bright side and don't like wallow in gloom. I mean, I think for Democrats, this is extremely upsetting. And even though I'm not, a Biden fan by any means, I have sympathy for people who are. I mean, it's like when you see, it's rough to see someone who you liked and maybe even admired just tank. And that's just the truth. All right.
well said.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk to you later.
Bye.
Wait, did I stop recording? Oh, here we go.